Hello, welcome back. Time to tackle the bass reeds on the Silvio Soprani. Now, the bass reeds look like this. So we've got two reed blocks, quite standard looking things. So 4 sets of reeds, although there is a kind of interesting collection of sizes on that side and this side. So just an interesting pattern, but I'm thinking what it is they've just mixed up the octaves, so they've got 2 different octaves mixed up between the 2 sides of this reed block, which is fine, but that will be all right. And we've got this one, which is just pretty standard 12 notes on both sides, so that's all fine. There is this extra set of like piccolo reeds just here, which I'm not sure what I'm going to do with, because they're quite hard to tune, because, well, they just are, because they're just fixed into the bass side, so you end up playing a chord and you've got to try and tune that chord, and also they can make, in my experience, sometimes sound a bit squeaky. So I'll see how I get on with those. I'm not sure. I'm going to think about what I do, because I might just take them off and blank it off, or I might do them and see what it sounds like. So I'm going to think about that a little bit. Not sure yet. So now I come to the bass reed blocks, and so they're not in pitch order, that's for sure. So just to make things easy, what I'm going to do is get a pencil to start with, and there's 12 reeds. I'm going to put 1 on that side of the reed block and 12 there. So I'm going to put 12 there, 1 there. I'm going to get my scribe here, and I'm going to number these reeds, because if I don't do that, it's just really hard to get them exactly back in the right place sometimes when you just don't, you know, when they are kind of like in this kind of not on pitch order. So 1, 2, just got to do this nice and carefully, 3, 4. There we are. So that's that one done, and then same thing as I did before. I'm going to get a sharp blade, just score along, and then penknife, and I'm just going to hoik these reeds out, and then I'm going to clean them up as I did on the treble side. So I'm just going to get this done, and I'll show you when I've got them all out and cleaned up, and I'll show you what valves I'm going to use on these bass reeds. So I'll show you this in just a tick when I've got them out and cleaned up. Okie dokie, so I've cleaned up all the reeds on one side of the reed block, cleaned up the reed block as well, so that's ready to go. Because these are quite high pitch reeds, the higher pitch ones on the bass side, apart from those piccolo ones. I'm going to use some valves that I would use for my treble side, so I'm going to use these ones here. I'm going to use all the same ones on these particular reeds, keep it nice and consistent. So just going to pair them up as before, glue them on, and yeah, so this one's straightforward, this reed block, similar kind of valves. So I'm just going to pair them up, glue them on, and so really it's just the same, exactly the same really as for the treble side. The only difference being the reeds are not in pitch order, so I've marked them all so I know which order I'm going to put them back into here. By also marking them on the, I know which is the underside and which is the top side. So I'll show you when I've waxed this reed block all waxed in, and then I'll tackle the larger reeds which will need some bigger valves. Okay, so let me show you when I've got all these reeds waxed back in. Okay, nice and straightforward, all cleaned and valved. Reed block has been prepped, so I'm just going to put some tape on the edge of the reed block, and I'll wax these ones back in. So these ones are similar size to the treble side reeds, and so I've used the same kind of valves and everything else. So I'll get these waxed in, and then I'm going to tackle the bigger reeds, and so I'll show you when I've got these all in, and then have a start on the bigger bass reeds. So give me 10-20 minutes. I'll stop the video here though, and I'll show you when I've got these ones all waxed in. Okay, here's an interesting one. I was just about to wax them back in, and to my surprise I found that the reeds don't fit the reed block properly. So what's happened in the past with this accordion, they've replaced some of these bass side reeds, and I should have noticed because the reed plates are aluminium rather than the zinc. So I'll just show you what I found. So some of the reeds fit and I've waxed them in, but this second one here, there's a gap just at the bottom of the reed chamber. So this is actually a replacement reed, but they haven't bothered to get it to fit properly. Now what I'm going to have to do here is make the reed chamber shorter so that that fits properly into that chamber, and the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to get some bits of wood and I'm going to cut them to size, stick them in, and just build up the bottom end so that the reed will sit on that wood rather than having a gap there, because that won't work, because sound will come through that gap and it just wouldn't work. So what they'd probably done on the past, the person who worked on the past had filled that gap with wax, but that's not ideal because it's not a good seal and it's not very strong. So what I'm going to do now, I've measured up how much of a gap I've got, and I think it's 3 widths of this wood. Now this wood, and it's a tip from Lester Bailey, who does wonderful work on melodians, is a stirrer from like your kind of Costa coffee shop kind of thing, or you know. So I just collect these, and they're just a nice thickness and the right width and everything else, and easy to cut. So I'm going to use these as my wood for packing out the chamber. So I'll show you how I do that, because that might be interesting. So let me just move my stuff around a little, and let's just get some stuff. Got a sharp knife, and I need some glue. I might actually use some super glue for this, could be nice and quick. I think I might do. Let's see how it goes. Right, so first of all then I just need to cut some pieces of wood. So first I'm going to square off that, cut it just a bit shorter so it'll fit in the gap. Score down the coffee stirrer, then you just got to bend. There we go. And I'm going to just check I've got that little bit cut. Just going to check that will fit in like so. So I'm just going to offer that up and cut a lot more of these. So I'm just going to measure these up and cut. So I'm going to need quite a few, so I'm going to cut them all out at the same time. Oh, I'm just going to score these. I'm going to give you 7 out of 10. Go. And just break these off. I don't think I've changed my mind on super glue. I don't like super glue that much. It's awfully messy. So I think I'm going to go to my old fave and use some of my Eileens. Come on, Eileen. So I'm going to use some Eileen. What Eileen? Right. Because I think that's going to be a bit less messy than their old super glue. Right, let's get a tiny little brush. So all I'm going to do now is just glue in a couple of pieces of this wood into the chambers that I need to be shortened, and just let that dry. There we are. I'll just zoom in, maybe you can see what I've done. Where is he? It is. Oh, haha! Sorry. There. Where are we? Getting bundled up. There we are. That's what I've done. So I leave that to dry, and then I can put the reed in when it will fit the chamber nicely. So I'm going to go along and just pack out those. I'll show you when I've packed them all out. There we have it. So that's the chambers packed. Just go out a little bit. There you go. They're all packed out now. So I'm going to leave that to dry for about 30 minutes or so, and then I'm going to give it a little sand, make sure it's nice and flat, and then I can get back on with the waxing. So it's a little bit annoying. I should have noticed it earlier. It just means it slows the job down a little bit, but once it's done, it's done, and it just means that the reeds fit properly into the reed block. Okay, so I'll come back and show you how the reeds now fit into the reed chambers once I've got these dried, these little inserts. Okay, so back in about half an hour. Oh, okay, so these are all now dried off, and the glue's dried, and I just got a little bit of 180 grit sandpaper here, and I'm just going to do a light sanding just to make sure that everything is nice and flat. Ready for the reeds to go in. And then hopefully everything should fit nicely. So I'll wax in one of these reeds just to show you that it's made a difference putting this little packing in. So let's do one just to show you. So I have to turn the wax back on actually. So I'll wait for the wax to heat up, and then I'll show you just waxing one of those reeds in with this newly shaped reed chamber. Okay, back in a sec. Okay. So having left my little shims, if you like, wooden shims, to dry, they're all in nice enough. Sanded them a little bit just to get them nice and flat. So that should help me now to get the rest of this side waxed in. So I'm just going to do that and get that done, and then I'll show you the other side. But I think I've got another issue to think about on the other side. So this one's a bit more challenging than I thought actually. Right, let's get this one in, and then I can show you. I'll get all these on. I'll get this side in. Okay. Right. Just show you that. See that one there now is sitting properly on the reed block. Okay, so that's going to work now. So that's good. And thank you to Lester Bailey. You can find him online for that tip about using coffee stirrers to pack out the reed blocks. Very simple, but very effective. Okay. And there we are. So that's all now waxed in. All they're waxed in nicely, so it's looking nice and neat, and they're now being supported properly within the reed block. So that's good. But now you come to the other side. So I'm just going to let that wax cool just for a minute or two, and then I'm going to turn it over and just show you the other side and the issue that I've got there. So just give me a couple of minutes. Okay, let me show you what the issue is. So these reeds are not the original reeds for this reed block, and they haven't been fitted properly. So this is my number 1, and the reed, I'll just zoom in a little bit. There we go. The reed is just a bit too long for the chamber. So the tongue of the reed is going to be catching on the end of the chamber. So I need to make that chamber, rather than reducing the length, I need to make it a bit longer. So I'm going to make some notes about what I'm going to do to each chamber. So number 1 needs lengthening. Right, number 2, let's have a look at number 2. Number 2 is okay. So I'm just going to put a tick for number 2. Number 3. Whoa. Oh God. Can you see that? Number 3 is just falling in. So with number 3, it needs shortening and thinning. It's too wide. So I'm going to have to pack out one side of that chamber for number 3. Right, number 4. Number 4's okay. Number 5 needs packing. 4 okay. 5 needs some packing. Let's have a look at number 6. Six is okay. 7. Seven's okay. 8. The reed's too long for the chamber, so I'm going to have to lengthen. Number 9. That needs to be lengthened as well. Flipping heck. It's going to be quite a job. Number 10. Oh no. Aha! So 10 is way too short and too narrow, so I'm going to shorten and thinner. Number 11. 11 need lengthening. And 12 needs packing. Oh dear. Right. Okay, so now I need to do some adjustments to the reed block. Number 1, I need to lengthen that chamber. Now what I'm going to use for that is a very sharp carving knife. I've got some wood knives for carving and doing wood carving. One of these, really sharp, so I've got to be a bit careful. So number 1, what I'm going to have to do is take away some of this wood to make that chamber just a bit longer. So I'm just going to have to carefully, so I'm just going to use this sharp knife, I'm just going to carefully, but it's so sharp it's like cutting butter. There we are. So just going to carefully take away some of this wood. I this is a brilliant knife. Gosh, I've got this, because it means I can just shave away the wood. It comes away really nicely, and what that will do, just give a little bit more room for that reed to be able to vibrate within that chamber without touching the end. Okay, let's just see. Yeah, and I think that's going to be enough. There's enough gap there. So that's just, I'll just finish that off and just show what I've done there. So I'm just going to finish that off. Just tidy it up a little. So that's how I'm going to enlarge chambers. Sharp carving knife. And then one of the reeds, number 10, where is he? And number 3 were far too short, so I'm going to pack them out in the same way that I packed out this side. But the other thing is that they're a bit narrow for the slot and they're falling in, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a bit of the wood and I'm going to pack one side out. So it's only by like a millimetre really, but it's just enough to give a bit more kind of surface for that reed to sit on. So all I'll do, I'll just cut that to length and stick a length down the side of the chamber, as well as packing at the bottom, just to make that chamber small enough for that reed to sit in nicely. So I'm going to prep all these chambers and I'll show you when I've done them all. Now I've got the reed chambers prepped, so I have packed out the sides of some of them. I've enlarged some other ones to make them a bit longer and just sanded it a little to get it nice and clean and flat. So that's all good. So now I should be able to wax in these reeds without any problems. So let's have a check and see how we get on with that. So just going to heat up the wax, get that up to temperature, and I'm going to just get my reeds in order. Oi, get in order. Where have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 12. So fingers crossed, this is going to be all going to fit. They're all going to work. I hope so. I'm sure they will. But there we are. But it's just a longer process than I was hoping for, but might as well get it done properly. And yeah, let's have a go. I'll take the tape off, so that's all now finished, and I'm really pleased to say that all of the reeds have gone back in where they should have been. So I'm pleased with that. So that's now going to be left to cool, and the next step is I'm going to tackle the largest 2 sets of reeds. So give me a second while I just get myself organised, and then we're going to get on to the last 2 sets of bass reeds just here. Right, final set of bass reeds, 2 sets of bass reeds. I'm hoping for no more shenanigans, because I don't want any more shenanigans. I just want to get on with it now. So let's hope that these are all the right reeds for the reed chambers, and yeah, let's get on with this. I have already numbered reeds 1 to 12 on both sides, so then I can know exactly where they go back in, because as I said, they're not in pitch order, and I just want to be sure that I'm getting them done properly. Right, so let's get them out and have a look. I think these are going to be fine in terms of the sizes of the reeds. They look like these were the original ones, coming out fairly easily. Okay. Because of the size of the reeds, the reed chambers, the walls are quite thin, so they can just get them all in without get them into the right size. So on these bigger reeds blocks, you find that the chamber walls are actually almost like paper thin, because they have to be able to keep the size to the right size. So you have to be quite careful when you're dealing with these, because they are thinner. Right, so what I'm going to do next is get all the valves off these reeds. They're all going to be chucked. I'm going to clean the reeds up using a pen knife and some sandpaper, and then put them into the ultrasonic. And once I've come out, I'll just show you the valves I'm going to use for these bigger reeds, because these are the big ones. So yeah, so I won't film this bit because it's what I've done before. So I'm going to valves off, clean up the reeds as best I can before putting them into the ultrasonic for around about 20 minutes or so. Okay, so I'll show you this when I've got them all cleaned, ready for valving. Right, here we have the last 2 sets of bass reeds set out in the correct order. And for the biggest reeds, I've got these, my largest valves, and these have a leather backing or base layer, and then it's got 2 layers of vinyl adding that support to keep it flat. So I'm using these ones for the largest bass reeds, and then for the slightly smaller ones I've got some other valves which have got a kind of synthetic leather base and 2 vinyl layers which look like this. But the one thing that I've noticed is that they're just a bit too wide for the reed plate, just a bit, and I'm just concerned that on the underside valve, because it's quite close to the edge, there's a danger that could get caught on the chamber. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to trim down 24 of these, because I've got 6 here and 6 here, and trim them down to just a touch, just so they're just a little bit narrower. So let me just do some trimming. So I'm going to get a nice sharp knife and a nice straight ruler, and I'm just going to just take off virtually just a mil really, so I might just have to move this make a little bit more room for myself. So just about a millimetre, well, not much really, but I just need to trim these back just so that they're not so wide for the chamber. So let's just see if I can do this. Just got to be really careful. That hasn't worked quite so well, just trimming it with a sharp knife. I might get some sharp scissors and see if I can do it better with a pair of scissors. A bit tricky. Nope. Haha! I'm going to have to keep going with this knife. Okay, leave me to it. I'm going to have to trim these all back and I'll show you when they're all trimmed. Alrighty. It got better, the trimming. I just had to press harder with the blade to get a nice sharp cut. So I've got all of my reeds now with the pairs of valves that's going to fit them, and the next step is to glue on the valves. And for this I'm going to make it a bit, normally I'll put a little square of glue on the end of the valve, but this I'm going to make it a little bit more like a rectangle, just a bit longer, just to give it a bit more purchase on the reed plate, a bit more support for that valve. So I'm just going to get my glue and everything ready, and I'm going to glue up these last two sets of base reeds. Back in a sec. Right, so I've now trimmed all the valves on the smaller ones, so now I'm just going to glue all the valves on. So I'll do that, and once I'm on, I'm going to wax in the reeds. So I'll just do a quick show of where I won't film the gluing of the valves on because I've done that loads of times, but I'll do a little quick film of just waxing in the final two sets of the reeds. Okay, I'm ready. So all the reeds have been valved and trimmed, the wax has been heating. Just going to find my brush, just put that in there, get that warmed up. I've taped off the end of the reed block, so this is the final reed block of the 4 reed blocks. So this is a good time. This is the bit that takes all the time really, and it's good to get all these done. So see if I can do a nice neat job of these. So just waiting for that brush to heat up a little bit and get the wax onto it. It's gone right up to temperature, and yeah, let's do a little film of the last reed lock that I'm going to be doing. Here we go. Here we go, that's the first side done. Tricky because some of the walls of the chambers are quite thin, but that's looking nice. I'm just going to do exactly the same thing for the other side. So I'll show you when I've done that side and that's all finished. So I'm just going to do that bit now, but I won't film that bit. And there we go. So that's the final reed block, nicely done. I'm very pleased with how it's looking. So I'm pleased with how the reeds are looking, how the wax is looking. It's all looking clean, and I'm quite pleased with that, really. So that's great. So that's the final reed block, and then these are the other ones. That's the second base reed block, so that's done. And then we've got the treble side reed blocks. That's the black notes. Yeah, and that's the white notes. So that's all the reeds done, apart from this one set in the bass side, this kind of piccolo set of reeds here. I'm not the biggest fan of these, and I think they can be quite squeaky and also difficult to tune. So I think what I'm going to do is take these reeds out and then just put a piece of wood across all of these holes. I'll screw it down so it can be removed, and I'll keep the reeds in case I change my mind or somebody else would like to have them in. But for now I think I'm going to clean them all up, clean the reeds off, and screw a nice piece of wood just there, just to cover it all up, and just go for the 4 sets of reeds, which is kind of a classic arrangement, if you like. So that's what I think I'm going to do with that. So I'll put that there for now. So there we go. So I hope that was useful in terms of, there we go, there we go, useful in terms of reed work. And in the next video what I'm going to do is tackle the pallets on the treble side. So all these are going to come off. Going to give the treble side case bit here a really good clean, dust and clean, get it really well cleaned, and then I'm going to make some new pallet facing material with leather and felt, and put that on and get that all ready. So that's going to be the next video. So thanks for watching this one. Hope it was useful.